Hi, it's Roxanne Split with Corellian Radio, and I am here at PAX with Daniel Erickson. Hello.
How's it going?
It's going great. How are you?
Fantastic. PAX is always fun. We get out and actually hang out with the public, hang out with the fans. It's such a different environment than any other show.
That's really, really cool. So one of the questions that I had to ask you was, obviously BioWare's really interested in making a really immersive experience, and that's a word that you hear thrown around the forums an awful lot. And recently I feel like, or maybe not recently, but it's kind of been co-opted by maybe the fans, and you hear it a lot every time there's a feature that they're really interested in that gets cut. And I think of the day-night cycle, or swimming, or not being able to rotate my ship completely in space combat. And I was just wondering if you could talk a little about the difference between immersion and realism and how they're not exactly synonymous.
Absolutely. So there's a whole lot of things way early in the RPG genre that people did because they thought that immersion and realism were the same thing. We had games where you had to keep track of all your food, where you had to go to the bathroom, right? Where you're like, oh, how did your hero die? I starved in the cave. I was trying to get down to the dungeon, forgot to bring some bread. Where you had to track how many arrows you had in the old original Dungeons & Dragons systems, right? The problem is these things aren't fun. What we're trying to do is we are trying to give you the most cinematic experience, right? Movies are immersive. You don't stop there and go, wait, how did he get from that building to that building? I mean, does he have a car? Does he have a motorcycle? What happened? Right? You kind of fill in the blanks. And the same thing, we want you to feel like you're in the middle of your own Star Wars movie, not like you're living every moment of that Star Wars thing, which means some of the things are decisions, right? The day-night cycle wasn't cut. It never existed. We made an art decision very, very early that we were going to go for fidelity over variety. So you're never going to get the same effect and the same level of quality of lighting if you have to have a day-night cycle, because you can't hand shadow and hand light everything, right? So we decided, okay, no, we're going to make these feel like they do in the movies. We're going to make things have each level have its own real strong feel to it instead of going the other way. The problem is, it's an easy one to say. Anything that gets cut out that's not full realism hurts the immersion, but I think full realism would break your Star Wars fantasy faster than anything else.
Okay, so let's move on to pre-orders. That's been going on for a while. Can you tell us about how many have been sold so far?
I don't actually have the numbers. I know, we ran through a whole lot of the collector's editions, and I know that we are the fastest selling EA game pretty much ever as far as pre-orders go, and all the analysts looked at it and went, whoa, hey, people might like Star Wars and role-playing games, and up their numbers and all that. One of the things that people are starting to hear is, I know somebody talked about in the stock announcement that yes, we were going to limit pre-orders, and that is true. There is a set amount out there, and we need to make sure that the servers can maintain their integrity. We need to make sure that launch day is good, which means we need to make sure that we're going to sell out all the pre-orders that we've got, that we've set the number, and after that we're going to wait for a while.
So you're not talking just about collector's editions, you're talking about any kind of pre-order?
Correct.
Oh, that's interesting. One of the things that was interesting about this pre-order was this idea that when you pre-order, then you enter your code, and then that gives you early access, actually based on when you enter a code. So it's kind of like you're getting in line for early game access. How important is it going to be to get in? Is it like a day or two early, or is it something really dramatic?
I don't think it's going to be really dramatic. The rolling start is far more for us. We could have, traditionally you would have said, hey, everyone who pre-orders, you can come in a couple weeks early or whatever it is. The problem is, we are going to have a mass of people that no MMO has had in the history of time. People don't think about the fact that World of Warcraft was not the size that we're going to be on day one because they created the space. They expanded the genre. Before World of Warcraft, right, we thought 400,000, 500,000 people was the most people you were ever going to get in MMO. World of Warcraft built up very slowly to the amazing amount of numbers they have now. We are talking about having to actually roll in tens of thousands of people simultaneously, to the minute, which means we can't have everybody on the same day.
I really have been wanting to ask you about this change about the killing the companions, because I said, oh, that sounds like something like Daniel Erickson was probably really sad about when they made that decision. So can you tell us, as a story guy, was that hard for you when that came down the pipe?
As like in the just distinct like, do I love the perfect world idea story thing? Yeah, it was kind of hard. We had sort of adjusted a few of them. It's one of those things we always say, right? Testing. So I'll tell you the truth, which is that people did it in testing all the time, and people were furious all the time. We have very specific roles for different companions. They fill different things. You kind of do need your full suite of companions. And the truth of the matter is, people like to test the game. And I don't mean test the game like in beta. I mean people like to check to see if they can actually do things. And sometimes they're not really thinking about the long-term consequences. And that's fine when you have a game that you can reload. But when you are, like one of these came probably average for people 60, 80 hours in. And you're not going back and redoing that one, right? So, yeah, gameplay had to win out on that one.
All right, and finally, now that Tor is in the final stages, I was just curious, I know when you sat down, when you first came on the project, you probably had a vision for the game, what you thought it would be. How close have you come to achieving that vision?
I think a lot of it really developed as we went. We knew we wanted to try to take Knights of the Old Republic, Dragon Age, the traditional BioWare games, and put them inside an MMO environment, get everybody playing together, and get closer to creating the ultimate sort of BioWare goal. Yes, we want to do cinematic and all that stuff, but way down at that core, we want to recreate people sitting around a table playing RPGs. We want to create the community and the feel and the part where your story is very much about your friends as well as the story of what the adventure was going on. And I feel like we got really, really close. Like, I feel like we hit the cinematic storytelling, we hit the Star Wars, we hit all of that, and people keep coming to me. In fact, I got it in this show as well, saying, oh, it really does feel like KOTOR. Except, hey, I'm playing it with my friends. And it was something that was almost incomprehensible to most people when we started talking about it, right? There was one guy, and I should go back and try to find him, on the BioWare forums, way back, who when everyone was saying, oh, you can't put story in MMOs, you can't, he basically listed the design of our game. He was like, oh no, it just look like this. But nobody else seemed to understand what we were shooting for, so it's very, very gratifying now to come and see it.
And was there anything that you really wanted to put in the game and that maybe it just didn't work out?
Oh yeah.
Oh, can you tell us one?
Oh wow. So would have liked to have a lot more CCs, would have liked to have a there was definitely more complexity to it. There was more complexity to some of we wanted to do layers of story stuff that will probably come into the game at some point. I really wanted to push a little bit more on what you could do with a live environment where you knew where the timers were and you knew when things were going on. There's, Damien talks about the Wall of Crazy. We've all got lists up there for the Wall of Crazy. But the nice part about that is an MMO is a live game, right? We've still got the future.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what else comes down the pipe. And how about the other way? Is there something that you never thought would get in, but did?
Yeah, I mean, there were a lot of things that I did not think the space game was going to actually be. I did not think we would ever have any, Hutball playing I'm not a PvP guy traditionally, and I love our PvP. I'm in there doing, in fact, a lot of the things that are not parts of an MMO that I'm normally into. So our heroic quests, the PvP, that stuff. That team, which is really it's the PvP and hardcore combat team. It's Gabe and Georg and their guys. They've gone and made parts of the MMO accessible to me that never were before, and that's really fun because it makes me play it in a different way. I'll do my core story stuff, and then, I pretty much leave my war zones queued.